Yes.
Okay. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Parama Gurubhyo Namaha. Shrimad Harmad Bhima Madhvantargata Ramakrishna Veda Vyasatmaka Shri Lakshmi Haikriva Namaha. Namaskaram. Sadbhaktam, continuing the tradition of Jnana Karya during the Madhva Navami. This Pravachana series in English is arranged to understand more about Shrimadaacharyara charitre, his teachings, and relevance to this day and age. It's an honor and privilege to have Dr. Pratosh A P to join us in this Jnyana Karya, which is presented in the form of 8-day series named Sumadhva Vijaya and Tattvavada Chintane. On behalf of San Diego Satsangha, I would like to welcome all of you and Dr. Pratosh. Namaskar, Dr. Pratosh.
Namaskar.
Video content.
So I have gotten a little bit of fever and bad throat from last evening, so my voice may not be the best of form. So I beg your pardon, all of you, so that my voice may not be the best today. Okay, let us start. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Antaaya Kalyanagmekadhamne Navadvanath Prathama Prabhaya Narayanaya Akhila Karanaya Shri Prananathaya Namaskaromi. Namaste Pranesha Pranada Vibhavaya Vanimaga. Namaswamin Rama Priyatam Hanuman Guruguna. Namastubhyam Bhima Prabhulatama Krishneshta Bhagavan. Namas Shriman Madhva Pradesha Sudrishanno Jaya Jaya. Apadamoli Krunamakratam Smarechitena Vigrah Prashyanti Siddhyanti Chamanoratha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So yesterday we were looking at Sarga 5 and we had stopped at this point where Shrimadaacharyara is incarnated into the Vedanta Samrajya and he was named Ananda Tirtha. And we also saw the reason that the author cites at why he was named as Ananda Tirtha. We will continue from there. भिदासु साध्ये त्यनुमानमत्रतैः प्रायुज्यतासु प्रतिपक्षभीषणम् अखण्डयद् व्यक्तमखण्डदीरिदम् सपक्षदक्षः फणिनं विराटिवा. So once a very interesting incident happens and a very subtle and deep philosophical interpretation is given for that particular incident. So what happened is once there was a debate that was happening in the Matha. See, you remember that Shrimadaacharyara was given sannyasa in the parampara that still practiced the Mayavada, right? That is the parampara. So he has to still start his own ideas and propagate it and all that. So he's he's doing a pravachana, and then somebody said that the idea of Veda, which is one of the fundamental tenets of Tattvavada, can be well established. So this was presented as a Purupaksha to Shrimadaacharyara. So he vehemently refutes this argument that the difference of Veda can be easily established. So Vida Susadhya iti Anumanamatratahi Prayujyatashu Pratipaksha Bhishanam Akhandayat. So he completely refutes this idea that Veda can be established. Okay. Then what happens is that he also gives a lot of logic to establish difference as well. So he illustrates very strong logic in establishing something. In this particular context, it is the Bheda. He also describes extensive logic to refute that same idea, which is called Bheda. Okay. So the Panditacharya says, Tattve Petatve Vimate Anumam Vadan Tada Pratishtham Pratipalaka Swayam Vijitya Vishwan Vidusha Sabhasvasu Jagama Namna Api Anumana Tirthatam. So people started saying that this yati can establish anything, or he can refute anything using logic, and therefore let us name this yati Anumana Tirtha. So in fact, this is one of the names that is given to Madhvacharya in Sumadhva Vijaya. Jagama Namna Api Anumana Tirthatam. Anumana in Sanskrita, right, in the philosophical language, refers to logic. So he was called the Tirtha of logic, Anumana Tirthatam. Why? He can present logic to establish something and refute the same thing. Okay, he can give logic, he can argue in both sides, and he can present logic to do both. Jakam tatvepi atatvepi anumam vadam tada pratishtham pratvarakasvayam. So the hidden philosophical meaning here is the following, right? There is one Brahma Sutra that says that, see, this goes a little deeper into the epistemological idea of Tattvavada. If you need to know anything, one needs evidence. Okay, and evidence has been categorized into three broad categories in Tattvavada. A lot of you may already know the sensory evidence, which is called the pratyaksha, and all the inference, which is called the anumana, and the third one is the one that we obtain by words or scriptures, which is called the agama. So there are three types of epistemological evidential category, which is pratyaksha, anumana, and agama. In Acharya's philosophy, I mean, which is very well established, I'll not go into the details. The precedence, so there is a gradation that is given to these evidences. So basically, if there is an inference which is contradicting pratyaksha, pratyaksha broadly is sensory. See, even in pratyaksha, there are two types of pratyaksha, which is the sensory perceptions that we obtain. That is one type of pratyaksha. The other type of pratyaksha is the core experiential knowledge. It is called the sakshi anubhava. It is the experiences that one has within oneself. So sakshi refers to one. Sakshi is an idea that Acharya has come up with. I mean, it is there in Shastra, so he has just named it as Sakshi. The Jiva himself or herself is called Sakshi, and the core experiences that a Jiva would have is called Sakshi Anubhava, and that is also considered to be a part of Pratyaksha, the Pratyaksha evidence. So what Acharya says is, if one needs to look at the precedence between this Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Agama, which are the causes of knowledge or evidences for acquiring knowledge, one has to give the utmost importance to Sakshanubhava, or the core experiential knowledge. So if there is something, okay, that let's say even Agama or Veda is pointing to, or an inference is telling you which contradicts the core Sakshanubhava, then you have to do a you have to uh, say a different meaning to that particular agama or anumana in accordance with your core experiential knowledge. That's what Acharya says. Okay, nahi pratyaksha siddham anyena kena api badhyam drishtam. Right? For instance, I'll give you an example. In one of the Vedas, right, there's this vakya that comes up which says mrud abravit. Okay, it literally translates to the mud spoke. Mrit is mud. Okay, abravit is spoke. So mrud abravit is mud spoke. So now that is contradicting with our experiential knowledge, right? We know that mrud navaktri, we know that. So one has to interpret that Veda in a different way. And there is a Brahma Sutra to do this particular thing. Abhimana Vyapadeshastu is the Brahma Sutra that says that Vedas, when they refer to something inanimate like Mrit and all that, they are actually referring to the Abhiman Devata, or the Chetana that is controlling that particular Tattva. Okay, so the word, the sentence Mrtabravit refers to the fact that the Mrud Abhimani Devata is talking. So this is one example. There are hundreds of them like this. Okay, so basically the idea is if evidences apparently contradict, despite the fact that the other evidence is coming from the Parama Pramana, which is Veda, you should never contradict your inner experience. Okay, you should always interpret the Veda or the Anumana or the inferential and the scriptural knowledge in accordance with your core Sakshi Anubhava. So that is one thing. So that is why the name to that particular pramana, right, is also called Anumana. So Anusritya Manam. So it is evidence in accordance with something else, which is the experiential knowledge here. So this is one of the key ideas which Acharya adheres to in his entire philosophical construction. So that is what is demonstrated in this particular story. Okay, Tatve Petatve Vimate Anumamadan Pratapratishtham Tad Apratishtham Pratipadaka Swayam. So what basically Acharya is trying to say here is that, see, if you only resort to logic, then you can use logic to prove or disprove anything. In fact, in this context, I'll tell you something. All of you may be very surprised to know this. See, when people ask evidence for existence of Ishvara or God, right? What is the argument that is mostly given? Is this creator argument, right? So, since you see, we have seen creators for everything around us. Right. We have seen creators for everything that is around us. So since world is also created, there should be a creator. So this is one inference or the anumana that is often used by all of us, right? Jagan Nirmatra. So since the world is created, you need a creator. But, and by the way, this argument is the one that is given by the Nayayikas, which is one of the Shad Darshanas. They use the same argument to prove Ishvara in a work by name Vishnu Tattva Viranaya of Madhvacharya, and also that is largely extended in Sri Vyasatirtha's Tarkatandava. There's a gamut of argument that is presented against this Anumana. So this creator argument does not hold water, is what Acharya and Vyasatirtha says, that you should never present this creator argument, which is that the world, Ishvara is there as a creator of this world, okay, or this universe, to anybody, because it's extraordinarily flawed. Okay, I'll not go to the details of all that, but just one idea that is presented there is, when you say that this world should have a creator because it was created, Acharya asks, how do you know that this world was actually created in the first place? Right, so it is called hetva siddhi and all that. It's a different debate altogether, but the point is, logic alone does not suffice to prove or disprove anything, because one can construct logic in whatever way one wants to, and it depends upon the intellectual capability. Okay, Tattve Petatve Vimate Anumamadam Tadapratistham Pratipadaka Swayam. So does it mean that logic is completely useless? No, it is Anumana. So base your argument from your experiences. So you have to base all the logic on the experiential knowledge, and from there you construct logic, and every logic that you build has to be set on the strong foundation of undisputable pratyaksha or the sakshi pratyaksha, in the to be precise. Acharya in his Anuvyakhyana says, Nahi kaschit sukhadyeshu samshayam krute janaha na padiksha anavastha syat sakshi siddhe tvasamshayat. Right? I mean, these are very, very deeper philosophical ideas. There is an idea called Pramanya Swatastva and all that comes up in Prakriti-Adhikarana and Sandhya-Adhikarana Anuvyakhyana. That is for some other day's discussion. But the idea is, see, this is a mistake that we all often do. Right? We tend to, when the younger generation asks us questions and all that about our dharma, rational, so we gravitate towards giving some logical explanation to them, no apparent logical explanation to them. There is always a counter logic, right? So we should be very careful when we do that, because the tarka or the logic is sort of shaky. It's a slippery slope. So if you tell them a logic, there's always a counter logic that someone can say. So just 2 days back, I was having a conversation with Krishnaji in Mysore. So I was telling them that most of our, some of our rituals that we do, it's very hard to find a logical reasoning for all that. I'll give you an example, right? The Shastras say that some things should be eaten, some things should not be eaten, and all that. Okay. Then people will naturally ask, okay, why this division, right? Why not eat something? So you say something, right? So some logic you tend to give, oh, because it is created for asuras, that is why you need not eat and all that. There is always a counter logic to it. So why did Ishvara do this division for the things that are all? See, if somebody is satisfied at some surface superficial logic, it's fine. But people often are not satisfied. If somebody asks one question, they can ask 10 other questions. So one should be. I mean, I'm not saying that one should move away from logical reasoning. I mean, all Brahmamamsa Shastra is about logical reasoning. But the only thing is, base your reasoning on a stronger footing, and this stronger footing is often the undeniable experiential knowledge, is what Acharya is trying to convey from this story. Tatve pratatve vimate anumadam tada pratishtham pratipalukasvayam tarkasya apratishtham pratipalukasvayam vijitya vishwan vilsham sabhasvaho jagama namna api anumana tirthatam. And that's why people started calling him Anumana Tirtha. So this yati can present logic in both sides, right? He can prove something or he can disprove something using the same logic. So we should be very careful with him. Is what the word that was that went out that in those particular times. So okay, so after that incident, there are a lot of descriptions of Acharya debating with a very large set of famous scholars from different sects that were there in those times. One famous name is this Vadisimha, who was a Buddhist. So he was there once in Rajatapitapura, and I mean those days, right? People, these Vadis were just going from place to place, finding opponents. So the thing is, you find an opponent and you beat them and take a Jayapatra, right? Which is a certification saying that, oh, I beat this particular Vadi. So he came to Rajatapitapura and he was beaten by Acharya, and all these stories comes in. Um, So this is one interesting story. So what happened is Acharya is doing a pravachana of Mayavada. I told you, right? Because everybody who would like to liberate themselves, either they have to do a pravachana or they have to do swadhyaya. Everybody has to do both swadhyaya and pravachana. So Acharya is doing a pravachana of Mayavada itself. And once what happens is he is doing the pravachana of Brahma Sutra Bhashya of the other sect, because that is where the new Brahma Sutra Bhashya is not constructed yet. So he makes this very striking argument here, or observation here, saying सत्सूत्र भावे प्रविचारिते पृथक् भाष्याभिसन्धौ च विशुद्ध बुद्धिभिः निगृह्य गूढाग्रहमुग्रमेतयोः मान्योन्वयोन्योन्य महो न दृश्यते. Acharya says, okay, there is someone who has done, the Purvacharya has done a Vyakhya to Brahma Sutras. So I am doing a pravachana. So let us examine this bhashya without having any purvagraha, right? Which is precomposed notions of, okay, this is correct, this is not correct. Let's have an open mind and try to examine this. If you examine this particular work with an open mind, Acharya asks audiences, do you really see concordance between the previous Vyakhya and the Vyakhya to the previous sutra and the next sutra? Okay. So he says, Nigruhya Gudagraham Ugrametayoho Manyo Anvayo Anyonyam Aho na Drishyate. You don't see any concordance between the statement that is made previously or in Sutra 1 and the statement that is being made in Sutra 5. See, any Shastra has to be constructed in a way which does not have any inner contradiction. So this Shastra is complete of, I mean, is full of inner contradictions. Acharya says, why do you have to get stuck with something just because you have come in that particular parampara? So this is one extraordinary lesson that we have to learn, that when we study anything, be it Shastra or anything, all of you know this, we should not have any presupposed notions. okay, or any abhiniveshas, as they are called in Sanskritam, when you study something. So you study everything with an open mind. Okay, every possible thing that is out there, you taste everything with an open mind and choose the one that appeals to you the best. Okay, do not have any purvagraha when you study something. It is what Acharya is saying. So when it was said, somebody said that, oh, you are simply showing contradiction in the existing Brahma Sutra. Nanvasya sutrasya parortha uchyatam yad bhashya matram bhavata nirasyate. So they are saying, why don't you just write one more? Excuse me. So why don't you write one more bhashya to Brahma Sutra, or why don't you say one other meaning to Brahma Sutra instead of simply refuting the existing one? So then Acharya takes it as a prarthana and aklishta shabdanmaya vesha sambhavat sutrarthamuccher vachanam tadadare mani kritamnaya utasmrutikshana deshat katha tantava sutradharakam. Just give me a minute. So Acharya starts doing new Vyakhya to Brahma Sutra. See, here this observation has to be made. It is often said that this in philosophical circles, right? People say that people often look out for novelty in a new philosophy. See, even when we write scientific papers, right? I mean, most of you would have written or created the intellectual property in terms of patents and all that, and you know that one of the fundamental primary criteria to get your patent or publication out is the novelty factor. You'll have to come up with an idea that does not exist so far. It has to be new. So any new philosophical thought has to be constructed in a way which is novel. All of you know about this nine primary tenets of, the proclaimed nine primary tenets of Tattvavada, right? Which is given in the Navaratna Shloka of Vyasatirtha, Madhva Harif Parataraha, Satyam Jagat Tattvato. If you examine deeply, all these nine tattvas have been recorded and identified in one or the other mata or one or the other philosophical school before the advent of Shrimadaacharyara. See, for instance, right, Harif Parataraha, Vishnu Sarvottamatva is accepted and very strongly argumented for in the Ramanuja mata. Satyam Jagat, Nayayikas also say that Jagat is Satya. They also talk about Bheda. Okay, Jiva Hare Anucharaha. So Jivas being the Anuchara of Hari is again said in Ramanutamata and so on. So one question that a lot of people ask me is, what is the novelty of Madhva Shastra? Because all the so-called nine tenets, that is primary tenets, have been proposed and claimed by someone else previously. But one has to go deeper into all of them. And if you look at Brahma Sutra Bhashya of Madhvacharya, it is fantastic. So I'll give you one example of that. Okay, so before I go to that, now I have to also tell you what this Brahma Sutra Bhashya is all about. So you might have heard about this Prasthanatraya, right? Shastras, main works of Shastras has been divided into three categories. One is the Sutra Prasthana, the other is the Gita Prasthana, the third is the Upanishad Prasthana. Primary text that all philosophical schools have developed their philosophies over are three. One is the Brahma Sutra, that is composed by Bhagavan Vedavyasa. Second class of text is the Bhagavad Gita, which is a part of Mahabharata. Third part of text is the Upanishad. And all acharyas have written bhashyas on these prasthanas. And Shrimadaacharyara has also written bhashyas on all these. Now, if you consider the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, so what is Brahma Sutra? Brahma Sutra are aphorisms or small formula kind of things that are 564 in number, and these are used to aid one understanding of Vedas. There are lots of apparent contradictions in Vedic texts. Bhagavan Vedavyasa composed Brahma Sutra to ensure that all those apparent contradictions are resolved. Okay, so every sutra would have what is called as a Vishaya Vakya, in the sense that every Brahma Sutra deals with a particular Vishaya Vakya or a group of Vishaya Vakyas in Veda or Upanishad. So, as most of you know, there are about 20, 21 odd Brahma Sutra Bhashyas, okay, that different acharyas composed. And all of the previous acharyas identified one particular Vakya or group of Vakya as the Vishaya Vakya for a particular Sutra, in the sense that they have, suppose there is a Sutra in Brahma Sutra, so most of them had concurrence in identifying which is the particular text in Veda that this particular sutra is concerned about. Okay, but if you look at Acharya's Bhashya, he identifies a different set of Vishayavakya altogether. So, in the sense that his Bhashya is so novel and so extraordinary, in the sense that even the Vishayavakyas, okay, are the set of uh, Vedic texts that a sutra is dealing is completely changed. Okay, it is that novel. So at a very superficial level, even though it seems that the fundamental ideas of Madhva Shastra has been described somewhere, but as they say, the devil is in the detail always. If you look at if you look at Acharya's work at a deeper level, one would identify that every single statement that Acharya makes is novel. Okay, so Acharya starts doing a pravachana of Brahma Sutra here in fifth sarga, and then when we move on, and we go to the sixth sarga, and there is this interesting incident that happens. ऐतरेयमथ किञ्चन सूक्तं सूचयन् सदसि तत्र गरिष्ठः श्रोतुमिच्छति सभा भगवद्भ्यः सूक्तभावमिति तावदुवाच वर्णसौष्ठवगरिष्ठमतूर्णं तुल्यमात्रमतिमात्रसुलक्ष्मा व्यूढहृज्जगदघोषममुच्योच्चारणं मृतदभ्यतितार्थं लक्षणान्वितयावचनेऽस्मिन् देवता गुरुमसावतिशेते मानमित्यविधायते तत्तु सूक्तमपरार्थममोच्यम्. Okay, once this happens, is again, see, every single shloka or incident that happens in Acharya's life, right? They convey such deep philosophical meaning. That we need to look at all of these very, very carefully. Okay, so once this happens, Acharya is in a temple, and he is asked to decode the meaning of a particular Veda Vakya, and Acharya comes up with some meaning. And the scholars there counter him by saying that this is not the traditional meaning. You have said a different meaning. This is not the meaning, and they talk about a different meaning. Then Acharya says, see, every Veda Vakya has at least three meanings associated with it. Tyarthatam Shrutishu Vitta Dashartham. Okay, so he says every Veda Vakya has at least three meanings. Every shloka of Mahabharata has at least 10 meanings. Okay, and every name or nama in Vishnu Sahasranama has at least 100 meanings. Bharatam nau shatartham api syad vaishnavam padasahasratayam hi. So this is what Acharya claims. Now I'll have to give you a bit of background in this particular thing. See, Acharya, Shrimadaacharyara, he is the only philosopher amongst all the famous philosophers that has written an elaborate bhashya on Veda Samhitas. So you might know that the Vedic text broadly has four divisions in it. One is called the Samhita, the second one is called the Brahmana, the third is called the Aranyaka, the fourth is called the Upanishad. Okay, there are four broad categorization of Vedic texts. So for instance, if you look at the Yajurveda has Taittareya Samhita, and it has Taittareya Brahmana, Taittareya Aranyaka, and Taittareya Upanishad. Okay. Apparently what happens is most of the Samhita text, okay, which is the oldest, according to Western Indologists, right? There is nothing called oldest or newest according to us because all of them are Apaurushaya. But the Western Indologists say that the Vedic texts or the Samhita texts are oldest and Upanishadic texts are later in time. And Upanishadic texts are the ones that contain all the philosophical arguments and ideas. All the Samhita texts are nothing but descriptions of karma, the karma kanda. If you look at the Veda Samhita, for instance, if you take the Rigveda Samhita, right, that has about 10,500 mantras in it, they all apparently seem like describing different devatas. So you might have heard this sukta, right? The first sukta of Rigveda is the Agni Sukta, which starts as Agni Mile Purohidam Yajnasya Deva Mritvijam. And the next one is Vayu Sukta, Varana Sukta, Indra Sukta, and all this. All these Samhita mantras apparently look like some stotra to a devata. The so-called tradition before Acharya says that these are to be used in yajna and these are only karmakanda. So there is nothing that is important about these Upanishads, and you can very conveniently discard them all. And all Acharyas only took Upanishadic texts and wrote a bhashya on that. Nobody bothered about looking at Samhitas. Okay. But if you look at Upanishadic text, no, Upanishadic text itself says that Sarve Veda, Sarve Ghoshaha, Ekeva Vyakritihi. It says that all the Veda and Upanishad, all the sub-branches of Veda talks in one language, Ekeva Vyakritihi. So there is a concordance, or there is one voicedness amongst all the branches of Veda. Upanishad claims this, and nobody bothered to justify this particular claim other than Shrimadaacharyara. What Shrimadaacharyara does is, he's the only philosopher in the entire universe of Indian philosophers that actually wrote an elaborate bhashya for the Samhita part of Veda as well. So one of the Acharyas, Sarvamula, his work is collectively known as Sarvamula Granthas, right? One of his primary compositions in the Sarvamula Grantha is this work called the Rigveda Bhashya or Rug Bhashya, where he takes the Samhita part of Veda mantras and does an elaborate Vyakya of that. Not only that, he has written unconventional meaning, right? Or the ones that have never been observed so far or interpreted so far for every single mantra. You know what Acharya does in Rigveda Bhashya? He gives 3 meanings to every single mantra of Rigveda. Okay, the first level meaning talks about the Devata. The second level meaning talks about the Adibhuta or the Prakriti. The third level meaning talks about the Antaryami, or rather the Adhyatma meaning. So Acharya talks about the Adhyatma or the inner philosophical meaning for every single Veda mantra, and he demonstrated that. Not only that he claims that something like that exists, but he has demonstrated that in his Rigveda Bhashya for 40 long suktas of Rigveda. Okay, so in this particular story, yeah, so that's what Acharya says, that the superficial meaning that everybody is talking about for Vedas is not the only meaning that exists. Every Veda mantra has 3 meanings. Okay, and not only this, every Mahabharata shloka has 10 meanings at least. So this is not only 3 meanings, at least 3 meanings. Okay, and every mantra, every nama in Vishnu Sahasranama has at least 100 meanings, is what Acharya says. Now these scholars consider that, oh, we can beat this man very easily, no? So they stop him and says that ityudirayati vistradatitte bhusara iha jigishavayenam uchuhu arthashatakam harinamnam varnyatamiti sahasamukaste. They smirk and say Acharya that, oh, it's very easy to climb all this. Can you now tell us 100 meanings for every single name, every single nama that appears in Vishnu Sahasranama? Okay. So then Acharya says, Varnayami sakalam tataham vaha saushtavad anuvadantu bhavantaha. So he says, okay, I will tell all the 100 meanings for all Vishnu Sahasranama names, but you have to reproduce all of them. So because knowledge is not free, no. If you are challenging someone, you have to be ready to be challenged as well. So yeah, so Acharya in one other context says, Buhutsara, Buhutsaya, Matsara Varjitan Janan. So if you come and seek knowledge, we will give you knowledge. So if you challenge me, I will challenge you. Right? That's what that's what Acharya's approach was. So he says, okay, I will tell you all 100 meanings. Now you have to reproduce all that. Okay, then these people say yes, thinking that, oh, this man is just bluffing, he has no evidence to say anything, so we will do that. Varnayami sakalam tataham vaha sausthava tanu vadantu bhavantaha tam vadantamiti teta vadantu badhamiti atidrudodya mavapuhu प्रत्यय प्रकृति संगम भंगीम शब्दशास्त्र विहितां प्रतिदर्श्य शुद्धरीः श्रुतिशिर शतसिद्धान् अभ्यदात् सपदि विश्वपदार्थान् यावदस्त शतकं न विशङ्कः सन्ततोक्तिकृत पूरयदेशः वर्णितावधुति दुर्बलचित्तास्तावदाकुलहृदो ह्यभवंस्ते. Acharya takes up this first name in Vishnu Sahasranama, which is Vishwam. So you all know that Vishnu Sahasranama starts from Vishwam, Vishnu षट्कारो. He takes Vishwam. Okay. He starts elucidating the 100 meanings of this word Vishwa. Okay. It is not that he just talks about 100 meanings. He gives the Vyakarana roots for all of them. Pratyaya, Prakriti, Sangama, Bhangim, Shabda Shastra Vihitam, Pratidarshya. He does the same in Rugbhashya as well. Okay. So in Sanskritam, all of you know that the foundational, the technology of ascribing meanings to word come from this shastra called the Vyakarana Shastra, right? That would describe how do you have to subscribe meanings to a particular word. Okay, it is one to just say that okay, this word means something. It is a whole different game to point out to the detailing of the Vyakarana Shastra and derive the meanings from that. So Acharya did not only start saying 100 meanings for this word Vishnu or Vishwa, he showed the etymological derivation for all the meanings that he said from the Vyakarana Shastra. Shabda Shastra Vihitam Pratidarsha. Okay. Then these people stopped him. Even before he completed 100 meanings for the very first word Vishwa, they stopped him. Okay, they say Yavadartha Shatakam na Vishankaha Santatokti Kruta Puraya Deshaha Varanita Avadhriti Durbala Chittaha. They could not keep everything that he said in their minds because remember that they were challenged to reproduce all of this. So they said Tavadakula Hrudokya Bhavanste. Then all these people they say Devatasu Asulubha Pratibhate Manusheshu Sapaleshu Kathaka Kshamya Somya Sakalagya Namaste Te Bruvanta Ititam Kila Nemuhu. They were good people. They said this Pratibha of yours, this talent of yours is uncommon in Devatas. Okay, how do you expect this sort of pratibha in mere mortals like us? So they bow down to Acharya and they say, please excuse us for challenging you. So we shouldn't have done this. Te bruvanta ititam kila nemuhu. So they does this. So the story ends there. But again, as I said, the striking philosophical take-home message here is that every single Vakya or every single shloka that you see in Vishnu Sahasranama or Mahabharata has at least 10 meanings to it. So Acharya in one of his works by name Mahabharata Tatparinaya says this also, Manvadi kechit bruvate asti kyadi tathapare. So we see Mahabharata as itihasa, right, as a story. That's also there. But Acharya says every single character, every single incident that appears in Mahabharata has a deeper adhyatma philosophical interpretation to it. So characters are not mere characters. They refers to core philosophical ideas, all of them, and every single incident can be interpreted that way. So one of the 10 possible meanings of Mahabharata is this. The only thing is Acharya did not describe all of them because he thought that whatever he has given is already too much for manushas like us to digest. But anyway, so we have to remember that it is not the only superficial meaning. See, when we look at Veda Samhita and all that, right, the other parampara scholars talk only about one particular meaning and they say that this is the meaning for this Veda mantra. So you should always remind them or remind ourselves that it is one of the three possible meanings or n possible meanings that is there in this text. In fact, Acharya or Chandrakacharya, Vasudeva in his Chandrika makes the statement that for an Apaurusheya text like Veda, one can one can ascribe any number of meanings that is aviruddha. So aviruddha anantarthakatva is what is there for Veda. So that is a very striking philosophical argument that is given in our Siddhanta. Okay, so then the story continues.
There is one question I would like to interject. So there is a popular understanding that Rig Bhashya by Shrimadaacharyara was not a complete work. It's born mostly from the non-divine aspects of looking at texts and probably a historical angle to place the works. What do you think is the true response to that?
Oh, I just remembered that my... Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you now.
So the question is, Rugbhashya is not complete. Is that the question?
Correct.
Huh.
That is the popular argument that is put forth by a lot of people, even the ones very popular ones, probably controversial ones, within the Dvaita ecosystem have had that opinion.
See, it is not complete in the sense that, see, there are 10,500 mantras in Rigveda Samhita. Acharya did not write Bhashya for all 10,500, which is true, which is definitely true. Okay. But Jayatirtha, who has written a Tika for Bhashya, actually makes this observation in his work, and he says that Acharya is only doing a Dikpradarshana. Okay, Anya Shishyareva Ushyatam iti Nakatam. Shrimadacharya did not do this because he has only shown the way to his Shishyas that, oh, this is how you should do it. It is the Digdarshana. In fact, lot of other sannyasis in the parampara have been told to complete that. For instance, Madhva Tirtha in the parampara has been told that he has written Chaturveda Bhashya. Okay, and Raghavendra Tirtha has been said that he has written Veda Bhashya, and there is one part that is actually even today available by the name Mantrartha Manjari. It is still there. Okay, but yeah,
about six suttas, six popular suttas he touches upon.
correct. But there is also in the parampara, it is also said that Raghavendra Swami has written a Bhashya for Chaturveda also. Chaturveda Bhashya is also counted. So unfortunately, we don't have access to those texts. Anyway, so the fact remains that Acharya only wrote Rigveda Bhashya to 40 suktas, the first 40 suktas of Rigveda Samhita. The others have to be, one has to continue doing it. That's what the idea is. And Sri Jayatirtha himself makes this observation, which is true. Okay, so in that sense, it is not incomplete per se. The intention of the work itself was to show how to open up the possibilities and show Shishyas that this is a possible thing to do. Okay. Okay. In sixth sarga, there is this beautiful description that comes up, which describes that Shrimadacharya composes his Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Okay. Vidija pura bharatagraha sasvayam shruti khalo drishtva pushta buddhi makurot karunabdihi dushta paksha damanasthira sandam. It is said that he decided to write a Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Okay. Now, the poetic brilliance of Narayan Punitacharya lies in the fact that he compares the sankalpa or the decision that Acharya took to write Brahma Sutra Bhashya to the decision that Bhimasena took to destroy the Kaurava Sena. So he draws parallel between these two. Okay. So why did Bhimasena take that decision to destroy Kaurava Sena? Is because his beloved wife Draupadi complained that these people are torturing her. Right. That's why he decided that he'll destroy the Kaurava Sena. And here the same thing happened because the Shruti Abhimani Bharati complained Acharya that all the Shruti Smrutis have been interpreted wrongly, and please save me. So he draws parallel between these two. भूसुर प्रवर बुद्धि समृद्धि व्यक्तयुक्त वपुषां रुचिरांगीं सूत्रदीप्ति मणिमालिकयालं भूषितां भुवनभूषण भूताम्. And this is one other very interesting characteristics of Sumadhva Vijaya, or any kavya for that matter, more so in Sumadhva Vijaya, that shlokas are constructed in a way that they have two meanings. The same words, okay, can be interpreted in two different ways. So in these 6 shlokas, every single word that comes up can be ascribed to Bharati Devi or the Draupadi Devi, and they can also be ascribed to the Veda and Itiha and Puranas, the entire Shastra. Okay. मौलिसंग्रह विकर्षणदूनां मायिना सदसि दुष्टजनेन न्यायमार्गम् अपहाय महान्तं स्वेश्वरत्वमपि साधयतालम्. So one example is पूर्ण सद्गुणमजं गतदोषं बिभ्रतीं हृदि विविक्तमशेषात् वासुदेव धरणीधरनाथेति उच्चकेरपि मुहुः प्रवदन्तीम्. So the situation that is compared was during that Vastraparana that happened, Draupadi was screaming for help. She was screaming Vasudeva, she was screaming Krishna. And Purna Sadguna Majam Gata Dosham Bibhratim. So she was having, her heart was full of Bhagavad Dhyana in that particular moment. Looking at that particular state of Draupadi, Bhimasena made this pratigna that I will destroy Kauravasena. That's what happened in Mahabharata, right? Similar thing is happening right now is what Panditacharya says, that Shruti Smriti has kept Krishna or Gunapurna Vasudeva in its heart. Okay, and it is screaming for help. It is screaming for help, asking somebody to come and protect her. And looking at this, Verija viva pura bharatagreha saswayam shruti satim kalu drishtva. So just like Bhimasena looked at Draupadi and made this pratigna that I will protect her by destroying all the Kauravasena, Acharya makes this pratigna that I will refute all the bad interpretations and protect Shruti Smritis by writing the correct Vakya. So that is what is described here. And then this extraordinary event happens. That Acharya goes to Badrikashrama, okay, and in the current place that we see as Badrikashrama, there is this Narayana temple, right? He sits there and he has composed Gita Bhashya. And by the way, the first work in terms of chronology in all Saramula is the Gita Bhashya. Okay, so here he composes Gita Bhashya and goes and offers it to Srimad Narayana at Badrikashrama. Yeah, so I should remember my Reverend Guruji here and tell you an anecdote. So if you look at Gita Bhashya, it is one of the extremely difficult works amongst amongst Saramula. Okay, it's very, very hard to decode. So it is very skeptic in language. So Acharya does not speak a lot. He is known for his brevity and more so in Gita Bhashya. So all of you know that Acharya has written 2 different Vyakhyas for Bhagavad Gita, right? One is called Gita Bhashya, the other is called Gita Tatparya Nirnaya, or Gita Tatparya it is called famously. Gita Bhashya was his first work. And it is too brief and skeptical. If you do not look at the Vyakya for Gita Bhashya, which is written by Sri Jaitirtha by name Pramay Deepika, it is very hard to decode what Acharya is trying to say. My teacher, my Guruji used to say always, Sri P.S. Sheshgiri Acharya, right? Who I think all of you listened to him a few years back. So he used to tell me jokingly that Acharya did not come up to the level of Manavas when he wrote Gita Bhashya. So he did not understand that that people are so dumb that he has to lower his level. In his later granthas, right, he's more elucidate and he's more accessible. For instance, Anuvyakhyana is more accessible compared to Gita Bhashya. My Guruji used to say that when he wrote Gita Bhashya, he was still writing it for Devatas. He was not writing it for Manushas, and that's why it is so hard for Manavas like us to decode what he is saying. So that is his first work. Gita Bhashya was his first work. And then when he wrote Gita Bhashya for the first time, all of you know this story perhaps, right? The first sloka of Gita Bhashya is Devam Narayanam Natva Sarvadosha Vivarditam Paripurnam Gurumschan Gita Artham Vakshami Leshataha. When he wrote it first, he wrote it like Gita Artham Vakshami Shaktitaha, which means after bowing down to Narayana, I will compose the meaning of Bhagavad Gita in accordance with my capability. Gita artham vakshami shaktitaha. This is what the original shloka was. He goes and offers this Gita Bhashya to Shrimanarayana in Badrikashrama, and Narayana appears in front of Acharya and says, Etadartham atisukshmapi tvam shakta eva na yadatha samastam tena leshata itiha padam syad ityagatyata jagatjanakena. Acharya says, replace this word shaktitaha by leshataha. So leshataha means a little bit. Okay, Acharya says, I will describe Bhagavad Gita. I will describe the meaning of Bhagavad Gita as much as I can. So to the best of my abilities. Bhagavan appears before him and says that you know everything about Bhagavad Gita. Don't say that I describe as far as I know. Replace this word by leshataha, which means that I will describe Bhagavad Gita, a little bit of Bhagavad Gita. That's what leshataha means. So Acharya replaces the word shaktitaha by leshataha. And today's Gita Bhashya has, the ones that we study, has this particular patha. It says, Devam Narayanam Natva Savradosha Vivartitam Paripurnam Gurumschan Gitartham Vakshami Leshataha. So, see, it is Acharya's granthas are intervened by Bhagavan Narayana himself. No, he comes in and says that don't say Shaktitaha, replace it by Leshataha. So the current rendition of Acharya's Gita Bhashya has this word called Leshataha, not Shaktitaha. And then he is in when he is in Badrikashrama, Majjanam Vedhita Shitala Ganga Varanitya Maranodaya Kale Yet Sprishanti Nanarahima Bhita Amshayesha Prushatam Mahipasya. He used to take bath in the Arunodaya Kala, which is about 4 o'clock in the morning, in that freezing cold water of Alakananda in Badrikashrama. The ones who have visited Badrikashrama know how freezing, it's actually sub-freezing point, right? It's very hard to even touch that Alakaranda water. Acharya was taking a nimajjana or a Vagahana Snana in that freezing cold. Okay, and Panditacharya says, Amsha Yesha Prushatam. It's not a surprise because he is Vayudeva. Okay, so then he is the Jivottama, right? It is not a surprise that he takes bath in sub-freezing temperature. So if whenever, and by the way, I miss saying that in the earlier days, there's also this parampara that says that the shlokas in Sumadhva Vijaya can be actually used as mantras. So what does that mean? What is a mantra? Mananat trayate iti mantraha. Any piece of text that would give you a particular phala or outcome, if you chant it multiple times, is referred to as a mantra. So Gayatri is a mantra, there is Krishna mantra, there is Rama mantra and all that. Every single shloka in Sumadhva Vijaya can be taken as a mantra. So for instance, in third sarga, I skipped that story in the interest of time. There is one shloka where the boy Vasudeva cures the headache, chronic headache of one of his classmates. Okay, the shloka goes like this. Forget the shloka. Hold on. Priyavayasya guru shiru Priyavayasya guru shiravedanam ashamayat sahajamapi dussaham. Mukhavayuna Shravanagocharitena kadachana. Let me just tell the complete shloka. Savipine vijane mukhavayuna Shravanagocharitena kadachana. Priyavayasya shiro guruvedanam ashamayat sahajamapi dussaham. Savipine vijane mukhavayuna Shravanagocharitena kadachana. The shloka only tells the story that one of his classmates had a chronic headache. So he took that friend of his to a place in a forest, and he blows some air in his ears, and his chronic headache just disappears. This is the shloka. In the parampara, it is said that if you are suffering with some chronic illness, right, you do a puracharana of the shloka for multiple times, and you will find some respite. Okay, and there are these kinds of shlokas in Sumadhva Vijaya that is used in parampara to get different phalas, because this is considered a mantra. Okay, so this is the other shloka. The reason I just remembered that is in this sixth sarga that we are looking at. Yeah, this shloka, right? Majjanam vajita shitala ganga vari nityam arunodaya kale yat sprishanti nanara himabhita amsha yesha prashatam adhipasya. Suppose you are bothered by a cold or something. Okay, we are bothered by something that is very hard for our senses to take up. If you do a purascharan of this particular shloka, chant this 10 times, whatever, 48 times or whatever, people have found respite from doing this. Just like Vayastuti. We all know that Vayastuti Puracharana yields extraordinary results, right? Just like that, one can do Puracharana of Sumadhva Vijaya shlokas as well. Okay. Yeah. So then what happens is Acharya writes this one message to all of his disciples. Nedrisham sthalamalam shamalagnam nasya tirtha sailasya samam vaha nasmadakti sudrisham nasti vishnu sudrisham nanu daivam nasmadukti sudrisham hitarupam yati tavada dhaneva janoyam vyasarupa. He says that there is no other place in this universe that is purer than Badrikashrama. There is no other tirtha that is purer than Ganga. There is no other god that is better than Vishnu, and there is no other advice that is better than our advice. He is referring to himself. Okay, he writes this. He says this to his shishyas and says that I am now going to see Bhagavan Vedavyasa, and I don't know if I come back or not. Let all of you have good things. He just says that and leaves the place. Leaves which place? The place that we today identify as Badarikashrama, right? That he leaves that place and goes to this place called Uttara Badari, which is Naranam Gocharam Badarikashrama Pashram, and that particular Badari where Vedavyasa resides, that is not accessible to human beings. Okay, he leaves to that place. And then you have the story that there was one of his disciples by name Satyatirtha, who is uh, uh, the Mula Purusha of this parampara, which is today called as the Bhandarakeri Matha. Okay, so this Yati Satyatirtha, so he follows Acharya because he could not bear the separation of Madhvacharya. Sadgururna Viraham Sahamanaha Satyatirtha Yatihi Anvagamattam. He follows Acharya and he sees that Acharya is jumping one mountain from the other. Okay, दुर्गमार्गगतमप्यनुधावन्नापसोऽयमरुणी भवतीने लीलया स जवमाक्रमणं व्याश्रयात्वर सुदूरशिलासु. So Acharya notices that this guy is following him. Acharya turns back and indicates that he should go back. Okay, and when he indicated that he should go back, the next moment Satyatirtha realizes that he is back in this Badarikashrama. And he describes everybody, how Acharya was climbing from one mountain to the other, and then he reaches the Uttara Badari. So, and thus concludes the sixth sarga of Sumadhva Vijaya. And shall I take 10 more minutes? We'll complete the seventh and eighth sarga, and then we can stop today.
Sure.
Is that
sure.
okay?
Yes.
Okay. In the Saptama sarga, is one of my favorite sargas. What happens is Acharya visits Badarikashrama, the Uttara Badari, and he meets Bhagavan Vedavyasa. Okay, this entire sarga, the entire seventh sarga, is a description of Badarikashrama and Bhagavan Vedavyasa. It's a beautiful sarga, right? If you want to do a prarthana of Vedavyasa, right? This is like a 50 shloka version of Vedavyasa mantra. So in here, the Murti of Vedavyasa is described from Pada to Mauli. It's an extraordinary sarga that way. Okay, so every single anga of Vedavyasa is described. Achalasana, Yoga Puttika, Varakaksha, Sunudapramishtaram. The narration is very beautiful also, right? Acharya is approaching Vedavyasa, and as he is approaching, he is looking at that particular murti, and he is describing how that murti is. See, remember in the first day I told you, right? A kavya, one of the lakshanas of Mahakavya is that it has to describe all body parts of a person, of the protagonist there. And the person that Panditacharya chooses is Bhagavan Vedavyasa, and he describes an Apadamoli Varnana of Vedavyasa. So that is why this is not a kavya, this becomes mantra. Tam mantra varane ranavarnaniyam. Okay, there is a extraordinary description of Bhagavan Vedavyasa in 7th Sarga. And as I said, no, we only have 4 days to describe all that, so I'll have to unfortunately skip that particular description. And then after he describes Vedavyasa, he approaches him. And then Asyatami tudiri upavishte satyavatya sute satyavachi anaman mandahasavalokaistan munindran ihopavishatsaha avagamyatam munigana varishthado vidhivad vedur vidibidosyamananam apisankata susaka kavindrayo anayo nisamya paramamudamyayuhu. All the disciples of Vedavyasa that were there in that Badrikashrama realizes that this particular person that has come up, either he should be Chaturmukha or he should be Vayudeva. Chaturas Chaturanana Swayam Pavano Vavratarupa Avrajan. Because of 2 things. Because the kind of hospitality that he is receiving from Bhagavan Vedavyasa, he does not acknowledge anybody and everybody like this. The other thing is they realize that this person has 32 Lakshanas, 32 Purusha Lakshanas. Okay, and they are all rishis, and they know that not everyone will have 32 lakshanas, and they conclude that they should either be Chaturmukha or it should be Pavana or Vayu. Okay? Then Avagamyatam Murigana Varishthado Vidhivat Vedur Vidibidosya Mananam. So all the rishis in that Badrikashrama offer extraordinary hospitality to Acharya that goes there, and they start describing, discussing among themselves, is where the 7th Sarga concludes. Okay, and there is 8th Sarga, Pratibha Prabha Pramukha Sadgunair Nijer Ati Vismayam Niyamina Manonayan Puradi Kadachita Vedanayakam Vijane Shanai Rupasasada Sammane. So Acharya spends a lot of time in Badrikashrama, and he takes a lot of patha or lessons from Vedavyasa Devaru. Okay, Suvishesha Shesha Vadashesha Varnata Pratibodharasya no Shishya Tochita Gurumanasasya Guruta Pisatpate Sopapatti Ramare Ramanyata Purayeva Puritam Apurayat Punaha Nanu Krishna Yesha Paramartha Sankhya Bhagavan Manah Puramivayatam Pura Nidadhamatancha Jagahe Tadadbhutam. All Devata says that Vayudeva is already filled with the Purna Jnana. So it is like filling the pot that is already filled. So just like filling, you can fill a pot that is already filled. Bhagavan Vedavyasa is filling the hearts or the intellect of Madhvacharya with more knowledge. And they say that it is because the seer and the listener both have infinite capability. You can always add more. There is always room and scope to add more knowledge. Okay. इतिहास सुंदर पुराण सूत्र सत्प्रिय पंचरात्र च भाव संयुतम अशृणोत अनंत सुद अनंत ज्योतिरात परमार्थमप्यगणितागमावलेः. So what all does he listen to? He listens to Itihasa, he listens to Purana, Sutra, the Upanishad, Samhita, Veda, and all parts of the Satshastra. अथ बादरायण सहाय संपदा प्रयो प्रणंतुम अमितांतरोदितः अपि नादिरायण पदोदितम हरे वपुरंतरम लसितम आश्रमांतरे. So from there, both Madhvacharya and Vedavyasa goes to see another Bhagavat Rupa that resides in one other ashrama. What is this Bhagavat Rupa? This Bhagavat Rupa is called the Narayana Rupa, and you know this Naranarayana Avatara, right, of Bhagavan. So the Narayana Rupa, which is another Tapasa Rupa that resides in one other ashrama, Bhagavan Vedavyasa and Shrimadaacharyara, they both go to meet the other Rupa of Narayana Rupa of Vedavyasa or Bhagavan, which resides in one other ashrama physically, or rather, I should not be saying physically because Bhagavan has no physical form. It's the Jnanananda Rupa only. It is Abhivakta, it is manifested in one other ashrama. They go there. Then the entire eighth Sarga from here, okay, describes all possible rupas of Bhagavan. So it is stated this way: while they are traveling, Acharya starts thinking about all possible rupas of Bhagavan. Okay, and every single shloka in this eighth Sarga describes two Bhagavad rupas simultaneously. It's an amazing literary construct. Okay, I'll give you an example. Kathayantyamum parashubhasamanago hatamartyadeva tamasam punarpunah. Okay, so there is one shloka that describes the Parashurama Rupa and Vedavyasa Rupa together. Okay, and there is one other shloka that describes the uh, the Narayana Rupa and the Narasimha Rupa together. Okay, then Amarendra Vairi, Suradana, Chudara Puragavan, Vinivitya Purodatam, the Hayagriva Rupa and the Matsya Rupa is described together. So, how do you do this? See, in Sanskritam, what happens is the language is so versatile that you can cut the words in between in several ways and derive two different meanings from the same shloka. Okay, and he uses this versatility of language to do this. And then there are 20 shlokas that are dedicated to describe the Rama Avatara and Krishna Avatara together. Meaning, there is one shloka. Okay, one shloka describes one story from Ramayana and one story from Bhagavata together. You understand what I'm saying, right? So I'll tell you, Sajagama Matra Janatushtaye Kila Tvaritovanam Vijata Deepsitam Satam Sahabhareya Shubhaya Mahajayat Bhaja Lakshmanagra Surda Vinamuda. Think about it. The characters are different in Ramayana and Mahabharata. The storylines are different. But Panditacharya uses same set of shlokas to describe both Rama Avatara and Krishna Avatara together. This is one of the toughest sargas in Sumadhva Vijaya because every single shloka has to be studied in two different ways. Same set of words, but two different meanings. So this sort of thing exists in Sanskritam, right? There is one other kavya called Raghava Madhaviya, okay, where that goes one other level. Okay, if you read the shloka from forward to reverse, it describes Rama, the story of Rama. If you read it from reverse to back, it describes the story of Krishna Avatara. So that's another level of poetic genius. That work exists. It's called Raghava Madhaviya. So similar to that, here one shloka you read. I mean, you interpret it in one way, it describes Rama Avatara. Interpret it in one other way, it describes Krishna Avatara. That's how the 8th sarga concludes. And there is one very relevant, interesting story at the end of 8th sarga. What happens is Madhvacharya meets both of these Bhagavad Rupas, which is the Vedavyasa and Narayana Rupa. And he says that I will be here forever. Bhavatorita satata sevanamrite mama mantumastu bhagavan anugraha nalabheya vallabhada medrisham sukham jagatantrepi jagadeka mangalam. The happiness that I get from doing seva of your lotus feet here cannot be obtained anywhere in this universe. So I will stay here and never return back, is what Acharya says. Okay. And he also says, Kalikala Kalita Gune Dharatale Nanu Sujano Nanu Namadim Adunasti Yokyadihi Paratatvaranam Yokyatavate Nanu Habyadanam Nindete Shune. This is very disappointing to all of us. He says that in this bad Kali Yuga, there is nobody in this universe who is worthy of teaching. If I go and teach Paratatva to these people, it will become like offering Havishya to a dog. Nanu Habyadanamiva Nindyate Shune. So it is an India act. So I will not go back and teach these idiots. He's referring to all of us. He says, I will not teach any of them because they are all corrupted by Kalikala. So let me stay here and do your seva and never return back. Iti tam bruvāṇam ayam abravīt vibhuः bhuvi santi somya purusha gunotitaha vimalan maniniva gunodhitaniman dayaya vishodhaya vishuddha goganaihi. Tava kirtirati matimatramanayet ashubhan prabhakara vibheva kaushikan kamalakaraniva shubhan prabodayet paramagnaya mama visheshato nisham. See, Bhagavad Rupa says that don't do it like that. There are good people in Kali Yuga, so we were all lucky because Bhagavan displays this extraordinary karunya and says that no, don't do that. So it is like gold that has a lot of dust. True that this Kalikala has influenced them badly, but you go and Vishodhaya, you just cleanse them all and you do Upadesha to all of them so that they get good knowledge. Now, इति सा महीधर मुखाद् विनिसृता जगतां सुखाय विशता सरस्वती द्विजराज गो विषयताति पूरितं प्रवेश बुद्ध मध्व पृतु बुद्धि वारिधिं मतमित्यवेत्य महितं महतो अभिदाय बाढमिति धीरमतिः. So he says, okay, it is your instruction or adesha, I will do that. He comes back is what the story is. Okay. I always had this question that Acharya is considered the avatar of Vayudeva, right? Who is Sarvagna Shiromani. So why would he say this? See, if people like us would say who are not Sarvagnyas, we can understand. Okay, oh, we are not interested in teaching these idiots, and then we are told to do something else, and we do whatever we are told. But how could Vayudeva do this? Okay, my Acharya used to say this. My teacher used to say this. So this entire thing was a vidambana to display how much karunya Bhagavan has on us. Acharya knows that he has to come and he'll write the bhashya and all that. But the entire thing was orchestrated to ensure that we all understand how Karunashali Bhagavan is. In spite of Acharya saying that I don't want to teach all of this and these people are Ayogyas, Bhagavan displays his Karunya and says that no, these people are good inherently. Go and teach them. Only when you teach them, they will become good. So this entire incident was orchestrated to show that both Acharya, Shrimadaacharyara, Vayudeva and Bhagavan intend to clean us. The only thing is we are not receptive enough to take everything that they are ready to give. Right? If we are receptive enough, they want to do anugraha on all of us, just to display that entire thing that we are capable, and they are standing there to help us. Just that we are not seeking, as they say, you will never get if you do not ask. So one needs to ask. Of course, we need to ask for jnana and bhakti. We should not be asking for any material thing, because that's some other day's discussion, right? I mean, but the long story short, they know that the material comforts will only harm us more than making us good. Because as I described the first day, nastya krita kritena. Karma, any amount of material comfort only binds us more in the samsara, and that's not what we need. The ultimate goal is to get rid of everything that we are not, which is the definition of moksha, and obtain that paramasukha that resides within. So that's the idea of moksha. So if you ask for any material comfort, the one that is, see, it's like denying chocolate to a 3-year-old because we know that sugar is bad for our children, right? A 3-year-old asking for a chocolate that is harmful for his or her health is exactly the same as we asking for, let's say, a BMW that Bhagavan knows that is harmful for our health, and he generally denies that. Okay. So anyway, so the entire point of this orchestration is to show that they intend to give us knowledge. It's all there. We just have to make the first move, and they will take 10 more steps. I think with this note, we will stop here. Amnayastrayava tattvabodhakaste papaghnastrayava pavakah pradhanam lokava sakala bhrutastrayotra rejuhu sanandakriti munisuta dharmasunu madhvaha. So these three entities, which is Madhvacharya, Vedavyasa, and the Narayana Rupa of Bhagavan, they were like three Agnis, which is the Ahavaniya, Dakshina, and Garhapatya Agni. Okay, so all three Vedas, Rigveda, Yajurveda, and Samaveda, they were like the embodiment of these three Agnis and three Vedas. They were there in that Tupadarika Ashrama, is how this 8th Sarga concludes. Okay, so I think we have one more day on Sumadhva Vijaya. If we can extend one more, I think in 2 days I can more or less cover broadly what is there in the Sumadhva Vijaya. And then we can go to question answers. Or if you want me to conclude tomorrow, I will plan it that way. And then we can take up questions, whatever the way you want. So I'll just say the Antima Mangala and then we can discuss. Matprerakena Harina, Ya Puja Swasyakarita, Vagyagya Rupa Lakshmi Shaha, Taya Prinatu Keshavaha. Madhveshakshtarpanamastu. So you let me know how to do it the best way.
Yeah, we can talk about it. We should probably extend by a day. And it's like day 3, where you touched upon Shrimadaacharyara works and his interpretations and I think the interest has peaked, I would say, based on the number of questions. So we will try to organize these questions in terms of Hari Sarvottamatva, then Jivottamatva, and then also the regular questions that we get in terms of comparative analysis towards other Siddhantas. And so we'll try to organize them as best as we can. And also in terms of general questions, there are a lot of questions.
No problem. See, the thing is, I can also offer that I may extend this entire thing by a day or two. No problem.
Yeah. I think we'll have to probably do that if we
No problem.
need be. I think we are open as an audience. There's a lot of interest, and we'll discuss about this offline as well. So in today's discussion has been very interesting. There are a lot of notes and also questions are pouring in. Like I said, the interest I see about Shrimadaacharyara works in when there is debate, when there is Purva Paksha being put together. I think that takes a lot of understanding of what was trying to be achieved here. So we should probably spend a little bit more time on that. I have a few questions too, and we could probably do that. Or tomorrow we could pause for the first few minutes. We can look at some of the questions and then continue with the other sagas. If that is
So if I understand correctly, we'll take one more day for Sumadhva Vijaya, right? I'll plan it that way then.
Sure, we could do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So if you decide otherwise amongst your groups, just let me know on WhatsApp message.
Yeah.
I will plan it accordingly. Huh?
We can talk. Yeah.
Okay.
So today was a very interesting session, and and we can see that from the reactions so far. And like we've been doing, we would like to, before we conclude, Pranadevara Dasarapada by Srimati Akhila Chimargi.
Namaskar. वीर हनुम बहु पराक्रमा, वीर हनुम बहु पराक्रमा, सुज्ञान वित्तु पालिसन्न जीवरोत्तमा, वीर हनुम बहु पराक्रमा. ರಾಮದೂತನೆನಿಸಿಕೊಂಡೆನಿ ರಾಕ್ಷಸರ ವನವನೆಲ್ಲ ಕಿತ್ತು ಬಂದೆನಿ. ರಾಮದೂತನೆನಿಸಿಕೊಂಡೆನಿ ರಾಕ್ಷಸರ ವನವನೆಲ್ಲ ಕಿತ್ತು ಬಂದೆನಿ. ಜಾನಕಿಗೆ ಮುದ್ರೆ ಇತ್ತು ಜಗತಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಹರುಷವಿತ್ತು, ಚೂಡಾಮಣಿಯ ರಾಮಗಿತ್ತು ಲೋಕಕ್ಕೆ ಮುದ್ದೆನಿಸಿ ಮೆರೆವ ವೀರ ಹನುಮ ಬಹು ಪರಾಕ್ರಮ. ಗೋಪಿಸುತನ ಪಾದ ಪೂಜಿಸಿ ಗದೆಯ ಧರಿಸಿ ಬಕಾಸುರನ ಸಂಹರಿಸಿದೆ. ಗೋಪಿಸುತನ ಪಾದ ಪೂಜಿಸಿ ಗದೆಯ ಧರಿಸಿ ಬಕಾಸುರನ ಸಂಹರಿಸಿದೆ. ದ್ರೌಪದಿಯ ಮೊರೆಯ ಕೇಳಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕೀಚಕನ್ನ ಕೊಂದು ಭೀಮನೆಂಬ ನಾಮ ಧರಿಸಿ ಸಂಗ್ರಾಮ ಧೀರನಾಗಿ ಜಗದಿ ವೀರ ಹನುಮ ಬಹು ಪರಾಕ್ರಮ. ಮಧ್ಯಗೇಹನಲ್ಲಿ ಜನಿಸಿನಿ ಬಾಲ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಸ್ಕರಿಯ ರೂಪಗೊಂಡೆನಿ. ಮಧ್ಯಗೇಹನಲ್ಲಿ ಜನಿಸಿನಿ ಬಾಲ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಸ್ಕರಿಯ ರೂಪಗೊಂಡೆನಿ. ಸತ್ಯವತಿಯ ಸುತನ ಭಜಿಸಿ ಸನ್ಮುಖದಿ ಭಾಷ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿ ಸಜ್ಜನರ ಪೊರೆವ ಮುದ್ದು ಪುರಂದರ ವಿಠಲನ ದಾಸ ವೀರ ಹನುಮ ಬಹು ಪರಾಕ್ರಮ. ಸುಜ್ಞಾನವಿತ್ತು ಪಾಲಿಸನ್ನ ಜೀವರೋತ್ತಮ ವೀರ ಹನುಮ ಬಹು ಪರಾಕ್ರಮ. ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣಾರ್ಪಣಮಸ್ತು.
Thank you, Akhila, Medha, and Umair. So today we conclude day 3. And we will be joining again for day 4 tomorrow, same time. And we will try to be more systematic about the questions that we have received so far, and go over the same Pratosh Acharya. Thank you all. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Namaskar.
Namaskara. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Namaskara, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you. Srinivas.
Namaskara. Krishna Arpanamastu.